What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Kid Taj. I did the Eastern Conference standings predictions yesterday. If you missed that video, go ahead and check that out. It's the most recent video on my channel. And today we're gonna be doing the Western Conference standings, obviously. Yeah, 15-1. I'm gonna go over what team is gonna finish in what seed and why. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Please don't forget to leave your list down below in the comment section. Give this video a like. And subscribe if you're new. Also, I dumped the NBA Live footage because I don't like NBA Live, so we're just gonna stick with 2K footage for now. I know it's dated, okay, I get it, but I gotta put something here and not highlights right now because I can't do that on every video because of monetization rules and such. So let's just get it started. At number 15, I got the Phoenix Suns. I don't feel like there's another team I can put here, and this isn't as much of a knock against the Phoenix Suns, but just, you know, a compliment to the Western Conference for being so good, because I don't understand. I mean, I'm going through these teams making this list. I'm like, damn, what? None of these teams are really like a worse team in the conference type, but some teams are gonna look really low because everybody else is good. The West is better than ever this year, and it's just annoying because they now have Jimmy Butler and Paul George and Paul Millsap, among other players. Their teams got better, and that's not something that I like because I want more parity. I want the conferences to be even. It seems like every year they're getting closer and closer to being even, but then this year it's getting farther away just because of the fact that everybody left or got traded, whatever. And the Phoenix Suns are at 15 because still this team, I mean, they got their young guys, which is good, but they don't have guys that are going to win you games. And it's going to stay that way for this year, I think, because they didn't land a big name free agent. And this could really help because then they get another one of these prospects. They already have guys like Devin Booker, Marquise Chris, and of course, Josh Jackson. And they're likely to land somebody in the draft again. And you guys might be like, oh, well, they have Eric Bledsoe too, and like they should win games because those are quality players. I know they should, and they're not gonna be like your almost typical 17-win 15th seed. No, they're gonna win a lot more than that. But I just can't see Phoenix being anywhere, 12 and up. I mean, yeah, I guess they could have a surprise season and finish in like 9th or 10th in the West, if that, like a huge surprise season. If they do that, like that would be crazy. Actually, never mind. That's not gonna happen. Phoenix at 15, unless they get Kyrie Irving, they're gonna be in 15. At number 14, I went the Sacramento Kings. This is a team I wanted to put higher, but just looking at the other teams in the conference, I really couldn't. Sacramento has just for a long time been a laughingstock of the NBA, not only because of their records each and every year, but just because of the fact that their general management seems to never know what they're doing, and their records aren't that bad. It's just, the fact they haven't made the playoffs I don't even remember the last time they were in the playoffs. It's been too long. DeMarcus Cousins didn't work out for them. They want to start fresh, which is good because, and this 14th spot, they're not trying to win anyway. They got a ton of young players they're trying to develop, and they got Vince Carter, George Hill, and Zach Randolph joining this team. And with those additions, you guys might be like, well, with those guys, they're going to do a lot better. I don't think they're gonna, because this team still, they're not trying to win. They're trying to rebuild, and those three guys, they're not really in their best years. Maybe George Hill is at the top of his game, I might say, but none of these guys are gonna change your team enough to make your team a playoff team. I don't think. I'm really not seeing that, especially after losing Cousins and Rudy Gay. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense right now. At number 13, I went with the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks are fresh off of drafting Dennis Smith Jr., a guy that could change their franchise. He's one of the most hyped up prospects this year. He's a guy that people are looking to be a force from day one. I do think that he will be a pretty good player, but he's not really the exact reason why I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to be better than the two teams already listed. I also think Harrison Barnes is the best player out of any team I've talked about so far, just because Harrison Barnes is on this team. I think he'll take a step forward. I think that the Mavericks have some good players. They have great coaching. And this team is definitely not a playoff team. They're not ready for that. But I think they're trying to get Harrison Barnes more used to this atmosphere, the being the number one guy thing. And Dennis Smith, they're banking on him to become something. I think he really could become something, and it's going to be really fun to watch him play throughout his career. Or, just say develop, in these early years. He could really be something. At number 12, taking a huge step back, I had the Utah Jazz. And it's funny because I actually had the Jazz being, the 4th seed this year. I had the Jazz taking a huge jump last year. A lot of people thought it was crazy, and guess what? They did it. They were so, everyone's like, well, the Jazz are a surprise team. No, they weren't. Not to me, they weren't, because I knew it. I guessed it. I'm good at this stuff, kind of. The Jazz are going to take a big step back. Yeah, I know you might be like, oh, well, Gordon Hayward, does he really make them 8 seed or 7 seeds worse? No, but losing him and George Hill, this team, they look, it's bad. I mean, it's bad for the Jazz. I mean, things finally looked like they were going in the right direction for the Utah Jazz, and then Gordon Hayward just, the 1 year they started winning, I mean, they got into the second round of the playoffs. For the first time, the Jazz have been in the playoffs since Gordon Hayward had been there, right? Or maybe it was Gordon Hayward in there with, I don't know. But anyway, in this era, let's just say, the Gordon Hayward, Rudy Gobert era, this was the first time they made it to the playoffs. Gordon Hayward dips out of there, and now it's Rudy Gobert's team. But the problem with Rudy Gobert is he's not a dominant scoring type player. He's not the guy that's going to give you buckets. He's just going to be your super dominant defensive and rebounding guy. And he'll make the team better, obviously, but this team has no reason to be good because they don't have a guy like that. I mean, they have Ricky Rubio at point guard now, but I don't see who their scorers really are. I predict this to be one of the worst offensive teams in the league next year. At number 11, I had the Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers snuck into the playoffs, and I know Yusuf Nurkic is a guy that it makes sense for him to start getting good, and you already have Lillard and McCollum, but this team is still brutally one-dimensional with a backcourt of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. These are two guys that just want to shoot, and they're not going to do a whole lot else, and they're both really good players. I think they're both super talented, but both of them in the backcourt is a huge defensive liability, and they're not getting enough people involved as playmakers. I mean, both of them, I guess, both want to have the ball, but they're scoring types, and you have that, and it's like two of the same player almost, and that doesn't really work. Yusuf Nurkic could be a force down low, but he's also a guy that needs a lot of touches, and I don't know how those three are going to work it out next year. Either way, this team could have some good stretches, but I don't think this team is going to make it into the playoffs just because of the other good teams. The Western Conference is a tough conference to play in, and they're going to see that. And for people that think that Portland's season last season was just a down season, Portland only won like 44 games in the season where they made the playoffs. And Chris Paul and Chris Paul and Blake Griffin both got injured, and they played the Warriors and lost in 5 to the Warriors that year. They only won 44 games in the regular season. It's not like they were that good. And then they lost, and then last year, they took a big downfall, but they were the 8th seed. This year, I think they're going to take an even bigger step back. And maybe not that big of a step back, but I just think the West is just going to be better. I think teams just got so much better, it's hard to say really where they could end up. At number 10, I went with the LA Lakers. Yeah, we're going to see the LA Lakers this high on my list. I know some people think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't. I do respect the additions that this team has made, though. I think that Brook Lopez and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope are among players that can help this team win more games, and that's exactly what I have them at 10 for. But Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball, people are forgetting, these guys still need to develop. I mean, people are acting like Brandon Ingram is ready to average 20 points a game. Don't forget, this guy averaged like 9 points in 28 minutes last year. I mean, he had a terrible scoring rate in his rookie year. And I know he got better because that's what happens with young players generally. But I don't think he's good enough to be a 20-point scorer. I don't assume that's going to happen. And Lonzo Ball isn't going to average 17 and 7 out of the gate. He's not. I think he's overhyped. I think he could be a good player, don't get me wrong, but I've made a video on this already. Like, Lonzo Ball, the hype, it's too much, and a lot of it's just because of LeVar Ball. In college, before this guy was hyped, even in his freshman year, before a lot of people knew about him, this guy was supposed to be like a 5th or 6th pick, and then he just got this train of unbelievable press and popularity among people worldwide that were interested in Lonzo Ball. But this is not a Lonzo Ball video. I just think this team will take a good step forward, but not the playoffs. In the East, they could probably make the playoffs, but they're not in the East, unfortunately, for so many of these teams down here. All of these teams can make the playoffs in the East, really. I mean, the East is trash. Number 9. this might catch some people off guard. It's the New Orleans Pelicans. Yeah, I know. It might sound crazy, but I don't think it's gonna work. I don't think that Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins are going to take the NBA by storm as much as you guys might think. Now, for this, it's like this team could be the 5th seed or the 4th seed, and I'm not going to be that surprised. But for the accuracy of these things, I have to go with the wild card. I have to do something that no one's going to predict. You got to have some crazy dark horse prediction. This is mine. I don't think the Pelicans are going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to barely miss it at the end of the season. And look, it's just kind of one of those things that, like, it could happen, but it's not like I think this is guaranteed to happen. I just think that there's a good chance, because I don't know if DeMarcus Cousins can work with people. I'm not confident in his team chemistry abilities. Rajon Rondo on this team also, I think these guys like each other, Cousins and Rondo, because they played together, but I don't know if that's going to work. Those guys both want to, like, be the main voice on a team. And then you got Anthony Davis, the actual best player. How is it all going to work? Yeah, there's enough talent for it to work. I understand that. And it could work beautifully. I mean, there's a chance that it all comes together, and there's absolutely no complaints. But for me, I don't see that really happening. At number 8, Memphis Grizzlies. You might think it's a crime for me to put Memphis ahead of New Orleans, and it might be, but, But if the season ends and Memphis is ahead of New Orleans, we're all going to be like, what? Memphis made it? New Orleans didn't? That's crazy. That shouldn't have happened. Well, what if it happens? I don't know. Memphis, even though they lost Zach Randolph, Mike Conley and Marc Gasol are a good enough duo to get it done, for sure. They've done it every year. I mean, Mike Conley and Marc Gasol are savagely underrated players. Yeah, I know I didn't have Marc Gasol in my top 5 centers, but he might be a top 5 center. He might be like, if I had Embiid where I had him, if we're talking about durability and stuff and consistency, yeah, maybe Marc Gasol could be in the conversation. Anyway, the top 7 centers are all interchangeable for me. They're all really good. Marc Gasol is still really good. Nikola Jokic is still really good. Anyway, Marc Gasol is a great center. Mike Conley is a great point guard, and they know how to win games. They're not flashy. They're not gonna, make your highlights and be the guys that everybody buys their jerseys and stuff. But these guys get it done. I mean, and you just have to respect that. And I think this team's gonna have much more chemistry than anybody else below the Memphis Grizzlies on this list. At number 7, I went with the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets are going to be back in the playoffs this year after signing Paul Millsap. I love this signing for Denver. I think that this big man tandem of Millsap and Jokic will be absolutely deadly next year. Jokic, I believe, will take another huge step forward. And man, Denver's got a future, man. Denver has a future, not just with him, but also if Jamal Murray can be something and not even something huge. But Jamal Murray, as long as this guy can become a reliable shooter, scorer, this team's going places. I think that Paul Millsap, like I said, he's a guy, I think it was the Power Forwards video, this is a guy that just makes he's going to make your team better. The team's going to win more games with Paul Millsap, whatever team it is, because he can fit into any system. He's not a ball-dominant player. He plays defense. He rebounds. He can spread the floor. He can score. He's a patient and super smart player. He gets it done. So Denver, I think their talent gets a big upgrade with this, and they're in the playoffs. At number 6, the Los Angeles Clippers. As soon as we heard the Chris Paul news, a lot of people didn't think that this Clippers team would be in contention, but I think they're going to be good next year. The Clippers, they might not even miss a beat. I mean, they could be higher than 6. Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan are a great big man duo. Danilo Gallinari was a good signing. Beverly and what's his name? Milos oh, god damn it. You guys know what I'm talking about. That dude they signed from overseas that's supposed to be good. He's 30, but he's still good. He's their starting point guard. He's supposed to be solid. And they got Lou Williams off the bench, along with Sam Decker, Montrezl Harrell. I think this team looks nice. I don't know if it's just me, but this team looks nice. And the only reason I had them down at 6 is because I don't know who's really going to be the main guy. I guess Blake Griffin, they're just going to try to play through him, but Danilo Gallinari's got to get his shots, and their point guard, I don't know how good he is. No idea, really, but he's supposed to be pretty good. And Lou Williams off the bench is always nice. I think this team could be higher than 6. So I think 6 is the lowest I would put this team. I think this team could be dangerous. At number 5, I went with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Paul George is the newest member of this team. a trade in which, yeah, the Thunder totally won. If you're wondering why they're only at 5, it's probably just because I don't think they're better than any of the teams above them. It's not because they're a 5th seed caliber team. If this team was in the East, they would be like a 2 or 3 seed, in my opinion. Maybe even a 1 seed. But 5th seed in the West, we're going to see Russell Westbrook not average a triple-double next season. Hopefully the guy wants his teammates to be as successful as he wants himself to be next year. And he lets Paul George, do enough heavy lifting. Because I think that this team will work if Russell Westbrook lets them work. Russell Westbrook was phenomenal last year, and he led this team to a 6th seed, a team that had no business being in the 6th seed. But with Paul George here, you got to acknowledge that there's more star power on this team. You got to let him do a lot. You can do a lot. He can do a lot too. You can split it. And Steven Adams will keep doing his thing. Andre Robertson will keep being a great defensive player. Paul George is a really good defender. And he can shoot the ball. And this Thunder team should be good on defense because Paul George will defend well. Robertson will defend the hell out of whoever he's guarding. And Steven Adams will be great there too. And Russell Westbrook should be a better defender this year than he was last year because he's not focusing as much on the offensive end. He's got Paul George to ease the load over there. So the Thunder, another team that should be really good next year. Number 4, I went with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Wanted to put them higher again like everybody, but I couldn't. Just the teams above them. Jimmy Butler is going to be huge for this team next year. And I think this is going to be the year they take that big step forward. Because they signed Jeff Teague as well and Taj Gibson. They got that guy Gorgie Jang who people are sleeping on, but obviously the main product is Karl Anthony Towns. He's the future of this team. He is the go-to guy, and I think he'll take another step forward, and Andrew Wiggins is going to get the big money. I'm not really sure how Andrew Wiggins fits into this team at this point, and like I said, the shooting on this team is a little bit iffy. Also, Jamal Crawford signing was really good, but I'm not completely sure about Andrew Wiggins. That's the only question mark I have, how he fits in. But I think Jeff Teague can help direct this offense. He's going to be a guy that can score points for them. Jimmy Butler will do everything like he does. He'll distribute, he'll defend, he'll score, he'll be a beast, staying one of the most underrated players in the league in my opinion. And yeah, Cat and Taj Gibson will scrap and play defense. I just think that this team has some really quality players. Their starting lineup on paper is one of the best in the league. At number 3, the Houston Rockets. It was a little bit tough for me putting the Houston Rockets this high, but there's something about last season that I think they know they got the formula. James Harden has the formula. I think Chris Paul makes a team better, period. I don't think that they're going to add Chris Paul and get worse. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I do understand that, their success was definitely a product of James Harden being that guy to run the offense and having all those shooters, but they still do have good shooters around him, and Clint Capella is still there to catch your lobs, and Chris Paul will help a lot with that, to defend at the rim, rebound. Chris Paul will be a scrappy defender, and he'll help ease the load off James Harden. So I think Houston won't win as many games as they did last year, but I do think they're still going to be a very good team. Number 2, San Antonio Spurs. Even though the Spurs on paper aren't as good as other teams, they do have the second best player in the league, in my opinion, who will carry them to 60 wins probably again, despite not having that much depth on this team. They got the best coach ever, in my opinion. And they have the second best player and best two-way player, best guy that's going to guard the other team's best player and be the best player on offense for his team. And the Spurs do this. I mean, you can underestimate the Spurs as much as you want. Take a look at the track record and take a look at the roster they had putting up the win totals they did each season. Numbers don't lie. I mean, it's just what's going to happen. Spurs are going to be that good of a team. At number 1, Golden State Warriors. This video is running so long. The Warriors are, they're sitting pretty at number 1. Doesn't really make any sense for them to not be number 1. I feel like every time the Warriors next year are at risk of losing that number 1 seed, they're just going to lock in again and then just win a ton of games and just pull away. There's no reason for them to not be the number 1 seed. If you just look at that team they have, why would any of their good players get worse? Why would they not play better? Why would their chemistry not get better? I know it's depressing, but there's just no reason for them to not be as good as they were last year or better than they were last year. Considering they didn't lose anybody significant, and they should still be on the same page. They just won a championship. Unless all of them just get complacent, there's no reason for this team to lose the number 1 seed. So that's going to do it for this video. Like if you enjoy. I got to wrap this up. Comment your list down below. Subscribe if you're new. And I'm out. Thanks for watching, y'all. Peace.